This is it, episode 536. No Laugh Track podcast here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. My name is Justin Severson, gets to host this each and every week. I look forward to this every week, whether it's someone that's been on 11, 12 times, 13 times like some of the people, or first-timers like it is this week. Before I say who it is for the people who aren't watching on YouTube, I'm going to say that this person, some say LeBron James put Akron, Ohio on the map. Others say it's River Butcher.
Yeah. Oh, the best intro I've ever gotten. Thank you so much, Justin. It's good to be here.
It's great to meet you.
Yeah, it's great to meet you, too. I'm so happy to be on the podcast and be in Minneapolis, too. I forgot how great it is here. It's like I didn't forget, but I forgot. You know, like you guys reminded me as soon as I got here how wonderful it is.
Yeah. Well, you're leading right into my first question to you.
Perfect.
And that is, what is your history here?
My history
in Minnesota in general.
In Minnesota, I mean, I opened for someone in 2015. I know you guys have a board that everybody signs back there. So I was like, oh, wait, when was that? So that was early in 2015.
You looked for it in there?
I did, yes. And I found it. So it was early 2015. I opened here.
Yeah.
And then I did a festival somewhere in between then and 2020. You know, like somewhere I did a festival and had a great time.
Oh, okay.
I forget which festival it was. I don't know. I've done a lot of comedy. I forget the things. But, yeah, no, I love it here. It's great.
The important part was it was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. And this comedy club is, like, one of the best comedy clubs in the country, for sure. Like, hands down. Definitely top 5.
As someone who hosts this podcast, that's my affiliation, just hosting the podcast.
Yeah.
I never get sick of hearing that the comedians
Yeah.
love it here. So
I'm sure they don't get sick of it either. But, yeah, it's true.
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned, I do have to know, I mentioned LeBron James
Yes, of
jokingly
course.
at
Yeah,
the beginning here.
Yeah.
You're a few years older, right?
I
Was there
am, yeah.
any crossover there in teenage years?
No, well, I mean, we went to opposing rival high schools.
Okay.
So we didn't, but our schools played each other, and I think I'm 2 years older than him.
I think I looked that up, and that's right.
I think it's about that. And
Okay.
But we actually grew up in the same neighborhood. But like my neighborhood, like many neighborhoods across America, was like racially segregated through like redlining, you know, like different from the South where it was like very obvious. In the North, it's like very quietly but very clearly segregated. So he was on the one side and I was on the other side. But we would our high schools were in the same direction on the freeway. And I remember in the morning getting on the freeway, there was this on-ramp. And I just remember, it's like I can see it like it was yesterday, right there. His mom driving this gold Hummer that she got that was like this whole controversy, very racist controversy around town. Like everybody was really putting her through the ringer for getting this gift from the school that he ended up going to. And it's like, yeah, who cares? Like, they literally were homeless for an entire year when he was in 4th grade. Like, give her a car. Like, who cares, you know? But I just remember it's a very, you know, at that time, this was probably like 1999 or 2000, a gold Hummer was not a thing you saw. Like, you knew who it was driving it, and I was like, holy shit. So, like, that is the only time I really remember actually crossing paths with him. Because by then, I'm sure there were times that I crossed paths with him before he was who he was, like a known entity, and he wasn't really until he was in high school.
Sure.
So.
That's interesting. I mean, yeah, I found out as a sports fan of LeBron James when he was in high school. I'm not sure what age though.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting that you described the redlining.
Yep.
Because if you're interested in learning about when that and how that happened here,
always
Rondo. Go and Google that later on.
Okay.
Rondo neighborhood. And as you're describing that, I'm picturing the 94 that I take from my home to come here in Acme, and they're trying to. That's a big story in the last year. They're thinking about rebuilding the land over the highway to give people their community back, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the freeway that I'm talking about essentially bisected the white neighborhood from the black neighborhood and just like cut each other from each other.
Yeah,
you know?
same.
It's like, and yeah, it's all, you know, that's basically what this country does.
Insane.
Is that like people actually do live in community with each other, and then these systemic, you know, that's the thing is like the systemic issue is the thing we have to tear down, and we get very caught up in the sort of individual interpersonal racism and sexism and all these things. And like, while that's important to do your own, internal work and daily work around that, like, we can do all of that work, and if we don't do anything about the systemic changes, or what needs to be changed systemically, like it will never change.
Yeah.
So like those are the things, and we're just getting into light conversation here on this stand-up comedy.
Make a joke
podcast.
about it.
But,
Come
but
on.
it's true. But it's like it's true. Like if I, so it's what's going on like in the world, and like we can't. I don't know. I want to have fun with people, and if we don't, if we keep literally being bisected from each other, we can't have fun with each other.
Completely agree.
So like that's the thing for me.
Completely agree. So I mentioned to you before we started recording that I was at the show last night. Had an awesome time.
Thank you for coming.
Brought my wife with me. We had some really great seats.
Great seats over there.
It's a lot of fun. So you probably didn't notice, but I'm the one who has a little piece of paper and pen throughout the show, and I'm
I didn't notice.
Little notes. Like one time, a comedian called me out and thought that I was like stealing their act, and I'm like, I'm not a comedian. I don't tell jokes.
That would be a really wild way to steal people's material.
Literally, right?
It's like there's so many easier ways to do that.
I don't understand stealth. I just do.
That's right.
I dare you to stop me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna look over my little notes here from last night. Ranch cheese curds. I think that was real. I don't think that's part of the act that you mentioned.
No, they're in the
last night.
fridge. I had some today.
They're in the fridge.
Yeah, people who know me know I'm a big ranch guy. I love ranch. Was ashamed of it for a long time, but I'm not living in that closet anymore. I love ranch. It's really good. And I saw those cheese curds, and I was like, well, I have to try this because I really love cheese curds. What a God-given gift that cheese curds really are.
So you live in Los Angeles?
I do, yes.
How far do you have to travel to get cheese curds in Los Angeles?
I don't know. I honestly kind of forgot about them because like they're not around, you know. And so it was like a nice little blessing to be reminded of cheese curds. I'm sure there's someplace I could get them in Los Angeles. I have no idea where.
I wonder
I think
wonder
here's
what
the
specialty
answer,
shop
Justin.
that would be.
How far do I have to travel to get cheese curds? To Minneapolis.
There you go.
That's how far I have to travel.
I don't want you to be envious of me, but I live next door to a business that like I could have an urge to have some curds and have them in my hands within moments.
Well, I'm very happy for you.
Thank you. I don't have a lot going for me, but
well, you got those curds, man.
I got a curd connection.
You got a curd
very,
connect.
Very close. Very, very close. Let's see. Also, last night I learned that you have lived in LA since 2012.
That's right.
That's correct. You are like me, and you say pop instead of soda.
I do.
Which is
not. I mean, I want to. That's what my heart sings.
Instinct says,
but
pop.
I don't. I say
Instincts.
soda most of the time because I lived in Chicago and I also lived in Los Angeles, and it just really got beaten out of me.
I hear you. I hear you.
People really, they really don't. They're like, it's soda, and then and then people are really. What the things we actually fight about, are pretty silly and ridiculous, like ketchup on hot dogs.
Well,
do you guys put ketchup on hot dogs up here?
I do not.
You don't?
No.
It's like a rigid thing. It's very Chicago-y up here. Like you're stupid if you do that. 'Cause that's like the thing.
You could see with my hesitation, I'm sort of. I wouldn't call anyone stupid.
Sure, because you seem like a kind person.
Doing that. Do I put ketchup on my hot dogs? Not for 30 years, probably.
Right. And you don't do it because you think it's stupid?
Because I think it doesn't taste good.
It doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
Okay. Because let me ask you this. What is ketchup appropriate for in your lifetime? In your life?
French fries.
That's it.
Burgers, cheeseburger, hamburger.
Oh, okay.
that type of
Interesting.
thing.
So it's
yes.
what is the gap between the hot dog tasting bad with ketchup and the burger tasting good with ketchup?
I'm not even sure. I think maybe one time I put too much on, and then the ratio was wrong.
And so that
too much sweet, not enough, mustard flavor.
You have like ketchup PTSD. Ketchup PTSD. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yes. And you said how much you love ranch. I'm not big on ranch, but everyone else in my house is.
Of course.
Because
it's good.
So I'm that like every time I go to the grocery store. It's not, we have the board where we write stuff on, like, what do we need to get? That doesn't need to be written on there because
Right,
it's just
you always
understood.
get it, yeah.
Always get someone new at the store.
So is the love of ranch for salads or the love of ranch is for myriad food items?
Well, I have 3 daughters, and my youngest one is 4.5, and they have her dipping everything she eats in ranch, that type of thing.
I see.
Yeah.
So then, do you have a dip that you like, or do you have I'm curious your other salad dressing, like what you're into. That's not ranch. Like, do you even have one, or are you just like
you know what I really like is I'm going to go back to mustard. Really spicy mustard with a soft pretzel.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
that's a good thing. Yeah.
Like on a salad.
Yeah,
like that type of thing. I'm going vinaigrette.
Oh, vinaigrette.
Yes,
fancy. I had French last night, and then I spilled it all over my jeans. So I have French dressing jeans.
Do you mix that with ranch and call it French like my wife?
I mean, I would love to do that. I love French. It's pretty good. I personally love look, I know that Ohio to you guys is a stretch for the Midwest, but we've always been the Midwest to me. So no, no offense to anyone. Probably lots taken, but I still am very Midwestern in my likes. I love like a creamy, bright orange French dressing. Like a big vat from like a buffet. I'm like, this is my shit.
A buffet doesn't scare you?
Well, now it does.
Okay.
But, before I was like, sure, sneeze guard, who cares? But that's the ultimate flavor profile. Like the buffet is just a descriptor in terms of like what flavor I'm evoking. I have not been to a buffet style in 4 years.
Okay.
I do remember, I think it was 2021. There's a Sizzler in Los Angeles.
Oh my God!
They were like, the salad bar is back, and I was just like, we're all gonna die. Like, what? The fact that we think we should be doing this again is ridiculous.
So since we were talking about this, I have a job where they they leave some food out beforehand. That's in like a salad bar type thing. And, this is a place that, during the pandemic, we were getting, all these emails and, we had to make sure, to come back to work, you had to be vaccinated. And it was, they seemed to be very concerned about everybody's health. And then now that we're back working and they have this trough of food, you go grab, I'd like some salad. Well, you have to grab the tongs of the greens.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the last person just dropped it back right in there.
Know.
Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly out there.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. All right, I want to talk more about last night because it was so good.
Yes, please.
Let's see. I don't remember how it came up, but there was first of all, you talk. I also had a pager once too. You talk about having a pager on stage. I once had a pager. I remember I was probably a teenager and I had a job at a restaurant, and one of the adults saw my pager and was relentlessly teasing me.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah. Why do you have this? I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. I have a little chain for it and stuff.
Yeah.
I have a case.
Like I need to, and then I have to go find a payphone to call my friends back.
Yeah, yeah. Who don't page me anyway.
It's the fucking
Nobody paged me.
What are you, a doctor?
Yeah. I don't think I got a single page on that thing. Not a single
I remember my
one.
mom was a nurse and she brought one home one time. I was like, oh, look at us. We have this in common.
Look at us. We're pagers.
We're pager bros. So I don't remember how it came up, but you started talking to this gentleman sitting here in the quarter zip.
That's right.
And I think you described a quarter zip as the clothes of the oppressor.
I did, yes. Yeah.
Have you used that?
Sorry, I know Malcolm's wearing one, and also the club sells them too, but it was just like
No, the club doesn't sell them. Those were the club does not sell clothes, for the record.
Oh, okay.
They only give those to staff around New Year's or whatever.
Okay,
just for the record. But
well.
First of all, have you ever used that line before?
No, it just came out of my mouth. I was in San Francisco last. I was at the Punchline, and I was riffing on quarter zip pullovers there because there was like a lot of like tech bros and like venture capital people, and it was trying to find I was like just saying how that clothing item is so, like it's like CEO gear or whatever, and so I hadn't said it like that before, but that's the first time I've said that quarter zip pullovers are the clothing of the oppressor, but it's kind of true.
It's so funny. And I own a few.
I'm sure you do.
And this is going to sound like I'm making this up. I never am comfortable in them, and I think maybe that's why. I don't know.
It's like not a shirt, and it's also not a sweatshirt, and it's I always want like I always think I want one of those things, and I don't.
Yeah.
Especially the pullover. It's like I'm either wearing a sweatshirt or I'm not. And it is very confused about what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the two I own, I bought sight unseen, or not, like without trying it on. It was an eBay purchase.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It had a logo I liked, and then. And anyways, that.
Gotta love a good logo.
Yeah. Anyway, you should keep that, is what I'm saying.
Okay, great. I'll keep it.
It
stays in the act.
It's so funny. By the way, did you end up having a talk with that guy after the show?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. He
probably
was
had
like,
a really good sense of humor.
Oh,
about
he
that.
was totally game about it. He's like, it's a Nike one. Like he was just being very cute about it. Like you guys really are nice up here. It's not. It's not a lie.
Yeah. Oh, the Minnesota Nice you're referencing.
Yeah,
sure.
It's not like everybody was so kind after the show, and he was too, and it was really great.
That's awesome.
He was totally game for it. Yeah.
So one of the big things I was sitting there trying to guess who you were talking about, and you said there's someone very important here last night.
And then I realized like I didn't know if she wanted her spot blown up, and then I don't think she did, so I didn't say it. But it was Lee Finke, she's in the state legislature, right? Represents St. Paul, and I think it's area 66A.
Yes.
Yeah, first trans person elected to state legislature in Minnesota came to the show last night, which was really great. It was really wonderful to meet her. I've like followed her career path, whatever you want to call it, for quite some time. It was super awesome to meet her.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was great.
To be able to, we have that here. And
Yeah.
Like that's awesome.
It was super rad.
That's awesome. We left, and I was like, "Who do you think it was?" It was a politician. Who do you think it was? I don't know. And then I saw it on your social media later, or this morning, I guess. But,
very cool.
That is awesome. Do you have other people coming out to the shows? Do you know that?
I mean, I pre-pandemic, I would have, like local politicians like that would often come. I quite literally. Wait, was it here? What state was that? I can't remember now, so it doesn't matter. But quite a few. I can't remember any names.
Sure.
Any names off the top of my head because it's just been a minute. But I'm always blessed by. I sometimes forget how lucky I am to have people like Lee come to the show and then get to meet them. And offer them like a night of like joy and silliness and stuff, especially given like everything that they go through. To do that job, it's very difficult. So it's really like an honor. It's so cool. I really just like to borrow a phrase from LeBron James. I really just am a kid from Akron, and I sometimes I'm always grateful to be reminded like how lucky I am to get to do this. Like it's really cool and fun, and sometimes it's really hard. And then these nights like last night and weekends like this weekend remind me like how fun it is and how lucky I am to get to do it.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's really cool.
That's awesome. So last night during the show, when you were mentioning there's someone very important here, that was right. Also in the time when you announced to the crowd, in case anybody didn't know, I'm a non-binary trans guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I say the non-binary trans guy part because it works for the joke. But like the non-binary part is interesting to me because it's taken on like almost its own life in the mainstream, which I think is really great because people have found their own understanding of what that is, and it's like kind of taken on its own life. And so I don't always really say that, and I really don't lean on it because I think sometimes people think then I'm not a guy, sometimes like that it's like, oh, well, if you're non-binary, then like it's taken on its own thing. So I really, like I say that stuff on stage because it works in the jokes, and it's not that it's not true. Like within me, I think for me, like being non-binary is like having a very expansive view of what gender can be. That's all that it is.
Okay.
Like it's actually not anything specific because to say that being non-binary is a specific, like kind of almost limited thing is sort of negating non-binary.
Sure.
But that's also, if that's somebody's thing, that's their thing. I don't need to tell anybody else what to be. But like I just think sometimes people are like, well, then what are your pronouns? And my pronouns are very simply just he, him. You know what I mean? So anyway, just taking this opportunity to jump into that a little bit.
No, I'm
because it's like,
glad you are.
I don't know. It's interesting to be 41 years old and like watch how like the queer experience has changed in just my short lifetime, and like how interesting language is, and like how it begins in one context and then it goes out into like general population and it takes on its own life that's very sometimes far from what its original intention meant, and neither one is more correct than the other.
Yeah.
It's like neither one is wrong, nothing in between, but I guess I say that because it's like I ultimately am just a guy, period, and then those other things describe me more, you know.
Sure. Do you is that always kind of in the same part of your act when you mention that to the crowd?
No, I mean it moves around. It depends. Like sometimes I do it right up top because I'm just getting into the jokes,
I see.
And I realized the reason that I'd say that is because I opened for a friend of mine. His name's Mateo Lane.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people probably know who he is.
Yeah.
He's done really well, and I'm really happy for him.
Never met him, but he's very funny.
Oh, he's so funny. He's just effortlessly funny. He talks funny, and that's like the goal, right? Is to just be able to just speak comedy is like that's the goal. And he's just always been so talented and lovely and funny and wonderful. And I mean, we started together in Chicago and did shows in basements and stuff. And so he asked me to open for him. He was performing at the Ace Theater in Los Angeles, which is I think a 3,000 seat theater. And so it was really awesome to get to open for my friend who's like just been so incredibly successful and like doing exactly what he set out to do. It's really great to be a part of that. But I was used to opening or like performing for like my audience or whatever. And I started doing these jokes about like queerness and like gender stuff. And I was like, nobody's laughing. Am I not funny anymore? Like, what's and then I realized, like, oh, they don't know I'm trans. They think I'm just a cis straight white guy talking about this stuff, which is like fascinating to me. It's fascinating. And I usually do more jokes about that. I just didn't do it last night. But like that I'm just like, wow, I spent this whole life very different thing. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, I'm just a cis straight white guy to people. Like it's like wild. It's wild. So that's why I directly address it, because otherwise people are confused. They don't know why I'm talking about the things I'm talking about.
Interesting.
Because I'm talking about them with this like comfort and directness of my experience. But they're like, but why are you talking about it like that?
Wouldn't you love just to temporarily enter people's brains and be
Always.
like, what are they thinking right now?
I would always love to do that. And
Yes.
of course, I always want to say sometimes it's that I'm not funny, but I also am like I have to have a directness to this so that we're all, as best I can, that we're all on the same page. That like, you know what I'm talking about, because that's the thing is like I used to jokingly, like say, I'm gay, but it was like it was obvious because. It was obvious to people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the joke, is that it's obvious and I don't need to tell you. But now it's like, it's not obvious that I'm a queer person.
Maybe this is a really dumb question, but if people said to you, I didn't know.
Yes.
And
that only happens in the context of stand-up now. Because like my life it's very different. It's very different to be a trans person, to actually be a trans person and to have physically transitioned, I should say. Because I was a trans person before. It just wasn't, I just didn't know, and I didn't do any physical or social transition things.
Right, right.
And so, like I joke about it, it's not like I go into AutoZone and say like, hey, I'm a trans man or whatever. Or like I got my hair cut today and had a lovely conversation with these people, told them I do stand-up, and they're like talking about all these stand-ups, and then the one person was like, "Oh, Chappelle was just here. He's the best." And I was like, "Yeah," because I'm like, first of all, I don't want to get into it with you. Second of all, you can't tell that I'm trans. Like that's it, because I doubt that you would bring that up. You know what I mean? Like, but also I don't totally know. And so
interesting.
It just is a different experience.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there was a point I was coming back around to, and I forget why we originally were talking about that.
Well, I'll throw another question.
Oh, you said, do people tell you that? And like, yes. And I had somebody, two instances. I did a Q&A because it was at a college, and this person was like, I just didn't know, you look so good. And I had to be like, hey, I really appreciate, that you're giving me, that you're saying these kind things to me. But I also just want to offer that it's like not actually a compliment.
So
Like, I know that your intentions are good, and I know that your heart is in the right place. So I never want to be like mean to anybody. Somebody came up to me after a show in San Francisco and was like, "Hey, I just popped into the show," and like, "Hey, I had no idea." And it's like, we're all just trying to understand the world, and so I never want to be, like mean or punishing to somebody that says that. So I guess I just take the opportunity to be like, that just is information for that person. And like,
Yes.
because that's been my experience. Because it's like, dude, yes, I'm a trans person, and sometimes I'm like, oh, whoa, that person's trans. I didn't notice, but I'm not gonna go up to them and say that. Like, I try to poke fun at the fact that, like, the things work, but it's like, we, as like trans people, as a people, not individually, the goal is not to pass as cisgender people. The goal is to be ourselves. The goal is to be us and to pass as human beings. Like I hesitate in my own life to use the word pass because it has a lot of loaded meanings and it means a lot of different things to different people. We used to actually use the word stealth, which is funny that you said, I don't have an understanding of stealth, and I almost made a joke there, but it was too early on. We didn't know each other well enough.
Interesting. Wow.
But like, and we still use that word because like some people, some trans people, it's required for them to survive, to be stealth, for people to not know that they're trans, to work, to live, to get by in their lives. So passing and stealth, very close to each other, very different things. Each one sometimes is a requirement of safety and survival, but then it also gets into talking about privilege and like a trans person that passes in life has an easier life. Sometimes that's true and sometimes it's not, So anyway, all that is to simply say that like the goal of gender affirming care, whatever it is for that person to be themselves as much as they want or need to be. The goal is not to pass as something other people see, as like the goal or whatever.
I am so relieved that you're saying these things because I do a ton of research when I do this podcast, and what you're saying in the last couple minutes is basically what I was reading in the last week.
Mm-hmm.
So
wow, you did research for a week?
Well,
Great
more
job.
than that probably.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Probably more than that on and off. But
That's cool.
Yeah. So
great job.
I'm like, I wasn't reading bullshit.
No, and it's hard to. That's the other thing too. It's hard to wade through stuff on the internet to get to think, because there's a lot of bad information out there.
Sure.
There's also a lot of people sharing things that, you get to be anonymous on there, and there's a lot of people expressing frustration and all. It's like it's hard out there. So like, that's kind of why I just want to offer that stuff, and it's it's hard to get it. Maybe I'm making my way towards finding and turning it into material, but it's tender, and like I also don't want to speak from some place of authority, like I know more. I don't, but I just do know that there's like a multitude of experience, which is why trying to make it any one thing is always going to fail, and so that's why like all these laws that are being passed that are really just to continue to oppress poor people, essentially, and remove rights from everyone, because like they take them away from trans kids and they take them away from trans people. They're taking them away from everybody because we're all everybody.
Yep.
And so I don't know. It's just like I don't know what's best for anybody but me, and I often don't know what's best for me. So why would I think I know what's the best for someone else?
Yeah.
The only thing I know is to let people be themselves, and like that is the journey of life. So like, but again, I talk a lot about capitalism in my jokes, and like capitalism can't live with uncertainty. It can't live with possibility. It only lives within the boundaries of like extraction and profit, and possibility and like understanding and like experience is like nowhere within capitalism, because you have to put a price tag on all of it, and once you put a price tag on something, it isn't worth anything anymore. you know?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. So these are things that you get to. We should mention you have a podcast.
I do. Yeah, I do have a podcast with my friend Gabe Dunn. It's called The New Guys, and it's spelled Knew. I came up with that fun pun name.
Fun pun.
Whatever. Yeah.
Fun pun.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
And this is stuff that you talk about on there?
We do, yeah. We get into it. Because what's fun is that, on paper we look like we would be very similar, but we have very different experiences in, like in life, but also as the trans guys that we are. Like he often is like, I was a hot girl and like all this stuff, like that's how he talks about himself. And like, I don't really, that's not my experience. Like I don't. It's hard to talk about often for me, but it's like I just don't ever feel like I was like a girl ever. You know what I mean? Like
sure.
and that's it. What's interesting is you get into the weeds of that, and then you have to excavate your own like internalized misogyny, and then go, but this wasn't actually because I never was a girl. So a lot of my anger and frustration was because I was trying to be something I wasn't, and people were telling me I was this thing, and it's like, well, girls can be anything, and girls can do all these things I wanted to do, but it's like, yeah, but I'm not a girl though. like yes, girls can do whatever they want, like girls can love AutoZone, and they can love sports, and they can love hanging out with boys, like that's totally true, but I'm not a girl, so like that's it. That's the end of the story.
So along those lines, one thing that like Instagram would not allow is a female to post a topless picture.
Right.
You
totally
have posted a topless picture on Instagram.
Because I'm not a woman.
Exactly.
I know.
How did that make you feel being able to do that?
Great. But I also am like, everybody should be able to do this.
I mean, it's not my rule.
It's like I was happy to do it because I was happy to be in my own self. And like, it's interesting. And again, it's capitalism. That like, that then my trans joy has to fit within rules. It has to fit within like discrimination and sexism. Like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean I don't get to get the joy out of my experience, but I believe that everybody should be able to have the joy of that experience.
Yeah.
And I don't think we need to. It's 2024. Like, we don't need to be living in a puritanical state. Like, even though we are, and we always have.
Yeah,
it's like it's time. Pluto's in Aquarius. It's time for revolution. Let's get rid of all this stuff.
One other thing along those lines. How about being complimented on facial hair? I mean, you could have never imagined that in a million years, right?
Oh, I imagined it all the time.
Ah, I love. Really?
Yeah, I wanted facial hair my whole life.
Oh my God,
so I
love
imagined
that.
it.
But
I imagined it my whole life.
Okay, I should have phrased that differently.
I know what you're saying, but I'm just trying to like
have it really happen. I guess.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
amazing.
I mean, I did. There was a point that I didn't think it was possible.
That's what I should have said.
And I know that's what you mean.
Thank you.
But I'm not calling you out.
Thank you.
But no, I imagined it all the time, and like, and I say that to
That's
be like,
interesting.
this is it's more evidence for myself, and then I share that evidence to say like, oh, if this is something you imagine consistently, it might be the case for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like when people talk to me about, gender affirming care, and I was like, and I had other people share their experience with me, which is what helped me, and which is what these laws and things are designed to do, is make each of us afraid to talk to each other. And they shared what was going on for them, and then I realized like, oh, I've thought about this more than 3 times. I probably want to do it, like, and maybe that's not the case for everybody else, but I just realized like, oh, it's coming up for me a lot.
Okay.
And then I can give you an anecdote, which is, like I've always enjoyed being friends with girls, cis girls. But now I have this whole new experience, and I was talking to one of my friends who is a cisgender woman, and I was like, wait, you're telling me you never think about standing up to pee? And she was like, no, I never think about it. And I'm like, I always thought about it. So like, I just didn't realize that those thoughts were like, maybe not everybody's having those thoughts, and maybe the people who are also having those thoughts are trans men. you know, like maybe, you know what I
Sure.
mean? And I just because it takes, you know, we're isolated until we're not,
Yeah.
you know. So anyway,
I want, but before we run out of time, I want
yeah.
to. I think it's amazing timing that
Great.
I did a Google search and I just put trans, and then I mean that could lead to who knows
I mean,
what, right?
yeah, be careful.
Be careful, right?
We all have to be very careful.
Absolutely. Well, I think I found a safe one here.
Okay, great.
And I even skipped down and went to a site. I'm like, this looks like an LGBT friendly site.
Okay,
I think
all
it was
right.
called Pink News or something by name. I'm hoping.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's a good one. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
The reason I'm saying it's great time because this new data about trans people just came out. Did you see
Great.
this?
No, I don't know.
You don't know.
I see a lot of data about trans people. So
See, and I know, and I'm like, oh, is your first instinct like this is going to be completely wrong?
no,
it's
I don't know.
biased, It's who knows?
I don't want to do that either because
Okay.
Lee, Finke, and I were talking last night about how much we focus on these negative and real things that are happening. But I do actually, I agree with her that we need to be looking more at like joy and possibility because it's really scary for like trans kids to be hearing about this stuff all the time because they don't see a future for themselves. So,
Well, this is positive.
okay, great.
This is the headline here. The overwhelming majority of trans people are more satisfied with their life after transition, new research has revealed.
Yeah.
So good, right?
Yeah, it's very good. It's very good, and I've known this in my bones, you know. So
Love that.
yeah.
The national released just on Wednesday this week. The National Center for Transgender Equality's U.S. Transgender Equality. They compiled data. Over 92,000 trans people from all 50 states,
Yeah.
as well as overseas territories. They asked about healthcare, gender identity, transition, and 94% who lived at least some of the time in a different gender than the one they were assigned at birth reported they were either a lot more satisfied or a little more satisfied.
Yeah. What was the percentage again?
94.
94.
Yes.
94%.
That's an
of,
A.
of 92,000 people.
That's an A, sir. That's an
Yeah,
A.
that's a lot.
Yeah, it
Because
is.
you know, it's funny. Like they, you know, the New York Times continues to post these opinions and finding, you know, there are people who have detransitioned and there are people who have changed their mind. And like, you know, who supports those people more than anybody else? Trans people, because we know what it's like
Oh, of course.
to change.
Of course.
You know, but they keep cherry picking and finding 5 people here, 5 people there. It's like this is a big ass country, dude. If you can find anybody to support your opinion, but then you look at those numbers and you talk to 92,000 people, and 95% of those 92,000 people are either a lot happier or a little happier.
That's amazing.
And like both, I'll even a little happier is pretty incredible. Is a miracle in times like these.
Yes.
And it's just like you can't argue with that. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just a simple thing of going, oh, what someone else's happiness can only have positive effects on me, even if I never meet them. You know, like even if I never meet those people my entire life.
Yeah. I completely agree. Yeah, crabby people suck.
I know.
I have to bring up baseball before we're done because when
please,
you
let's
mentioned
do that.
baseball on stage last night, what did you say? You love baseball. It's made you cry.
Oh yes,
I'm like,
regularly. Yeah,
this is my guy.
that's right.
Here.
Big Twins fan, huh?
Huge Twins fan.
Yeah.
Huge baseball fan.
Lifetime Twins fan.
Oh God, yes.
Okay, yeah, of
Yes,
course.
yes,
I gotta
forever.
I gotta tell you, as a lifetime Twins fan, and being here in Minneapolis, the Twins and Target Field is what got me back in. So I will always have like a little, you know, place in my heart for my return, my full force return to loving baseball. Was probably when I was here. I think it was that. I had it. Usually, it's hard for me. People are always like, "Oh, you must like go see a bunch of games when you're on the road." I'm like, "No, we work the same hours." You
Yeah,
know?
mostly,
So
yeah.
I can rarely, unless I stay somewhere for a Sunday game. But I rarely get to experience baseball while I'm on the road. Although I will go to the stadium and check it out and all that stuff. But I happened to be here, and I was like, "Oh, we could go to this Twins game." And went, and I remember being at Target Field and being like, I forgot how much I love this. Because I will tell you, LeBron James and all the times we lost in Cleveland when he was there early on, and then he left, and it was heartbreaking, and I was like, I'm just done with professional sports. Like, I was just done.
Heartbroken.
I watched Cleveland baseball lose the World Series twice in my lifetime.
I know.
I just couldn't do it anymore. And then all the Cavs losses to the Bulls, I was just like, I can't ride this train anymore. Like, I have to get off,
Yeah.
and like focus on other things. And so then I think that was 2014 or 2015 that I was like, oh, I forgot. And my grandmother had died, and baseball was a thing that we shared together.
Mm-hmm.
And so it felt like, being with her again, but I sat in that big glove that you guys have, that like giant
Yes.
thing. Like, I was like, it was so much fun. And I was like, man, I forgot how much I just love how it sounds, how it smells, what it looks like, like what the people are like, the food, like everything. I just love everything about it.
And you still play?
Oh yeah, I've been in a baseball league for 10 years now.
Awesome.
I've played we've had 2 different iterations of the league. We all met in this one independent league, and then a bunch of us split off and created this new league that started off with 4 teams, and now it's 8 or 9. Like, it's gotten very big. But my team just celebrated our 2nd World Series together.
Congrats. I saw some
in
pictures.
3 years. Yeah, we won and then so me and my 2 managers, Colin and Mike, we've played together for quite some time now, and it's the 3rd time we've won the World Series together. Two we've managed, 1 we were just playing together.
It looks pretty sophisticated. You guys got kick-ass uniforms and
Yeah, it's a whole thing. It's honestly like one of my most cherished. I mean, I love everything in my life, but like, it has really changed me as a person. It's really given me so many opportunities to like grow and learn how to be a good friend, how to be a good teammate, how to be a good manager. And like, it's given me opportunities to like, make this mistake here, and then it comes up, and I get to be on a different side of it and then do it differently. I don't know. And that's what I love about baseball, is that like it is a sport that demands failure. If you cannot handle failure, like you can't be in baseball. You just can't, and that's like, it's a struggle to fail as much. I mean, it's like a joke that you can fail 7 times out of 10 at your job and be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like that, it demands failure. And once you accept like, oh, this sport demands that I fail, when you succeed, it's so much better. It's so much better, because you go like, holy shit, I can't believe I made it.
Yeah. So how's your glove? You good in the field?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had a lot of evolution. I did a podcast where I was like, I'm hitting the ball a lot farther, and this guy was like, why do you think? And I was like, well, I'm juicing. but I'm not better at baseball because of testosterone. I have a different body, and I'm able to use it differently. I can say that.
Okay, I suppose,
and this is not a universal experience, I wasn't able to use my body the way I wanted to before. And now it's closer to the way I want to use it.
Okay.
But I personally, I love playing third base, because any amount of thinking is dangerous territory for me. And so third base, you can't think. You have to just catch the ball.
Yep.
But I've been playing a lot of first base just because of age, and like all kinds of things. But first base is very hard. I can kind of play I can play any position. I can even catch, and I've done a lot of rehabbing on my own knees. I think I could actually do it this year. But I'm not, I wouldn't say that I'm good at it, and I wouldn't trust myself in a game necessarily to like call a game and be able to, it requires a lot more work, and I just don't think I can do that. But I feel like fielding is my number one. Like, I would say catching, hitting, throwing is like my order.
Love it.
Yeah.
So you could play, I mean, this is a league you could play until you're, who knows? Just
I
as long as you want?
basically get to decide when I retire,
Nice.
Yeah. But it's wild how, I mean, I've been in this league for 10 years, and that's 30 to 40, which is like such an incredible time to be around people. And like my friends have gotten married, had children, people have gotten divorced, like remade, like there's just so much life has happened in it. And there's like so many children around now. And so, like, I don't know how much longer I'll actually be able to do it, but the fact that I've been able to do it this long has been such a gift,
Yeah.
And like I love all the people in that league. The whole league is like is pretty incredible. I've met a lot of really incredible friends through that league, but I also there is something about being on a team with other people.
Absolutely.
And being a part of that team, like it's really special. And like the way that we won this World Series, like the way that we were able to win it was like it just felt so incredible to me because we like lost a lot.
Oh, okay.
And I actually think that was to me it was our what helped us win. Like I actually think losing is the best way to learn how to succeed.
Oh yeah.
Like if you always win, like you don't know how to come back. You don't know how to navigate those things, and it throws you off in a way that.
One of my daughters was on a volleyball team a couple years ago. Her first time she ever was on a team. So she wasn't that good, and she was put on a team with her level of and. They never won. Not just won a game. They never won like set, like nothing.
Yeah, brutal.
And trying to tell a person like you'll learn from this.
Yeah,
after you never win the whole season.
Yeah,
it's very difficult.
When she's like 30, she'll look back and be like, "Wow, that was a learning experience," but like not right now.
Yeah.
And also just to say, like putting people on teams based on ability is what I believe all sports should be. Because like I think gender segregation in sports is like actually kept us back as humans.
Okay.
And social advancement, and I think that trans people, specifically trans women, because nobody seems to really care about trans men in sports, and I wonder why. And I know we got to wrap it up. I could tell you why, but like, it's because they think we're women, and like we're not, and it's all misogyny in a different thing, and like they think we're not capable, and we absolutely are, but we are men, and so it's like both and where like I want to play with men, but I also love co-ed sports, so, but I actually think gender segregation. And I've talked about this at length on my baseball podcast, is what has kept, and the reason why women were kept out of men's sports is because women were beginning to succeed and be as good and better than men in sports. And so the best way to keep that from happening is to keep them out.
Separate.
Because there are sports where even today that can happen, So I think that the conversation and experience of trans people in sports is actually beginning to break that down.
Oh, that's good.
Like we could actually, especially for kids, I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, what is sports? You think every child should be a professional athlete, and if they're not going to be, then they shouldn't get to play sports? Like that's not what sports are for children. It's team. It's all the things I just said about my adult baseball league.
Exactly.
Like learning how to be a person with other people. Like if you are good and better than other people, learning how to have humility around that.
Yes.
And being a kind teammate and being like, I don't have to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't actually all about winning.
Yeah.
Like those are the important things that sports teaches everybody, even if somebody doesn't like sports and doesn't want to do it.
It's a reason why a lot of times, people will talk about, their teammates and refer to them as family.
Right.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
You could get a real bonding thing with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And like that's the thing about team sports is that every single person plays a role. Every single person has value on that team.
Yeah.
Not just, like the superstar that's the one who's the best player on the team. It is important for everybody to learn how to play together.
You know what your next step is after that when you're done playing baseball is beer league softball.
Sure, yeah.
That's
we'll see.
I
mean, I tried to play some softball because my friend invited me. He was like, come out, and I was like, well, it's just more reps. And then I realized like it was because it was slow pitch and it was like ruining my swing,
Sure, it's
like,
different.
The ball's coming in here instead of here.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
You can't mix them. Don't mix.
Yeah.
Don't mix. Is there anything else we should be mentioning? And I say that I know we didn't mention that you have a special out on YouTube.
I do. Yeah.
That people could watch.
It's called Someone's Boyfriend.
Yeah.
You can just Google my name and that.
Okay, yep, Google River Butcher, and you'll find that on YouTube. But is there anything else that we should be mentioning? And I say this, I kind of stopped asking that question, but I'm going to do it now only because Matthew Broussard was here last week.
Yeah.
And I found out since then that he never mentioned this. He just did some virtual comedy on Fortnite, on an island on Fortnite, with this thing produced by Trevor Noah. Just happening like this week. This is happening, and I was like, "That's really odd and interesting." You should have mentioned that. So,
yeah, no, I'm not doing any comedy on islands in Fortnite by Trevor Noah or anything like that. No, I just am doing more stand-up dates. So check those out if you're not, in Minneapolis this weekend. I'm going to be in Kentucky and Chicago, and then Buffalo and Philly and New Jersey later. So yeah, check those dates out on my website. And then, follow me on Instagram at Riv Butcher because River Butcher was already taken. And, support the trans people in your life.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. It's been great to meet you. this is one of those instances where I wish we could go a lot longer.
Of course, yeah,
because
and I
there's
could go a lot longer.
I'm sure, and I got a million more things to bring up too. But this just means you have to come back.
I
We'll do
know.
it again.
I have to come back and do the podcast again.
All right. Thank
All right.
you.
Yeah,
very
thanks,
much.
Justin. I appreciate it.